I don't think a day goes by without someone asking me a question about the SHRM certification exams. The questions are often related to the format and layout. How much time do I have to complete the exam? How many questions are there? What type of questions are asked? Is it a paper exam or computer? Hi, I'm Christina Danforth with HR Jetpack, a top SHRM Education Partner, helping hundreds of HR pros like you pass their SHRM certification exam. In this video, I'll answer your most frequently asked questions about the exam structure, its format, and help you understand what to expect on exam day. I'll start with exam timing and number of questions on the exam. This is true for both the SHRM-CP and SHRM-SCP exams. Candidates are given 3 hours and 40 minutes to answer a total of 134 multiple choice questions. Your exam experience begins with a confidentiality reminder for 2 minutes. It's followed by an introduction and tutorial for 10 minutes. You are then given a total of 3 hours and 40 minutes to complete your exam. The exam is broken up into 2 sections. You have up to 110 minutes for each section. Remember, the confidentiality reminder and introduction are not included in the total time you have to complete your exam. You must review all flagged and unanswered items before finishing the first section. You cannot go back to the first section and resolve any unfinished items after starting the second section. And you can't jump ahead to the second section without finishing the first section. And any unused time in the first section doesn't transfer to the second section. This is a good time to talk about breaks. There are no scheduled breaks. You may take one unscheduled break for up to 15 minutes. But remember, the exam clock won't stop. Now, it's up to you if and when you take your unscheduled break, but I usually recommend taking your break before moving on to the second section. Since the clock keeps ticking during your break, you might as well let it run at the end of the first section and use up any extra time. Of course, this only helps if you have extra time at the end of the first section, but every little bit helps. Note, if you're taking the exam in person, you will have to go through security again, so keep that in mind. Okay, back to the exam. You've finished section number 1, and now it's time to move on to section number 2. Just like section number 1, you receive up to 110 minutes. When you finish or run out of time, a survey will appear. You'll have 8 minutes to complete the survey. Now, the moment of truth. You will receive a preliminary pass or did not pass notification from the system. That's right. By the time you are done, you will know whether or not you passed the exam. Then, in the next 4 weeks, you'll receive your official SHRM report and score with a confirmation of your preliminary results. Now, let's talk about the question type. The exam includes 3 different types of multiple choice questions, including knowledge items, situational judgment items, and field test questions. There are 80 knowledge items and 54 situational judgment items. 24 of these 134 items are field test questions. As a reminder, when SHRM uses the word item, they are referring to a question. The 80 knowledge-based items are broken down into 2 categories: foundational knowledge items, also referred to as FKIs, and HR-specific knowledge items, also referred to as KIs. The foundational knowledge items are questions focused on the very foundation of the SHRM BASK, the 9 behavioral competencies, like leadership, communication, and business acumen. The HR-specific knowledge items are all questions related to the technical aspect of the HR profession. These include the 14 HR functional areas like talent acquisition, workforce management, and corporate social responsibility. The knowledge items are pretty easy to spot on the exam since the questions are short and more concise. They test one piece of knowledge which will be related to a particular source. The second type of question on the exam is called a situational judgment item, or SJI. There are 54 situational judgment items. They are more in-depth and will take longer to read and understand. For these questions, you'll be given a scenario meant to assess your decision-making skills and judgment as an HR pro. You will need to identify the best approach to either resolve or at least address an issue. The SJIs only test the 9 behavioral competencies. In fact, those who develop the questions use the proficiency indicators to identify different actions an HR pro could take to respond to a problem. The proficiency indicators refer to what KSAs, knowledge, skills, and abilities, are expected of an HR professional in relation to the competencies and functional areas. They're very important, and understanding them helps students make the distinction between the exam levels, the CP and the SCP. Here's what's key. You should not necessarily answer a question in terms of what you do at your company or in your industry. Rather, what's the best practice as a whole? The situational judgment items are looking for the best, most effective course of action. You will need to choose the best answer from the 4 responses. Here's a tough part. Any or all of the responses could be implemented successfully in the workplace. However, one of the 4 responses is most effective. The key to selecting the best answer is determining the most effective means to solve the problem that you've been given. If you're confused with the difference between knowledge items and situational judgment items, the Vice President of Certification Operations at SHRM explains it this way. Think of it like driving a car. The knowledge items ask, do you know the rules of the road? The situational judgment items ask, can you operate the vehicle? The test is separated into 6 clusters with 20 to 27 items in each. So there are 20 to 27 questions in each cluster. A cluster is essentially a group of questions. Section 1 of the exam is made up of the first 3 clusters. Cluster number 1 is made up of 20 knowledge items. Cluster number 2 is made up of 27 situational judgment items. Cluster number 3 is made up of 20 knowledge items. Section 2 of the exam is also made up of 3 clusters. Cluster number 4 is made up of 20 knowledge items. Cluster number 5 is made up of 27 situational judgment items. And the final cluster switches back to 20 knowledge items. The third type of question on the exam is called a field test question. Notice I didn't use the term item. The field test questions are exactly what their name implies, a testing question. There are 24 of them mixed into the exam and again are not scored. This means only 110 of the 134 multiple choice items in the exam are scored. You will not be able to tell if a question is a field test question. Placing these into the exam allows SHRM to gather data on whether or not the question should be included as a scored item, like a knowledge item or a situational judgment item in a future exam. On occasion, I have a student who tries to focus on these types of questions. Since we don't know which question is a field test question, don't worry about it. Approximately 50% of the questions are focused on the behavioral competencies. 50%. I can't stress the importance of knowing and understanding the behavioral competencies enough. They make up half of the SHRM body of applied skills and knowledge. The questions focused on the behavioral competencies include both situational judgment items and knowledge items. 17% of the exam questions will be related to leadership, 16.5% related to business, and 16.5% related to the interpersonal competencies. The other 50% of the exam focuses on the HR knowledge domains, also referred to as the technical competency, separated into 3 categories, including people, organization, and workplace. In addition, this 50% of the exam is all made up of HR-specific knowledge items. 18% of the exam questions are related to the people domain. 18% are related to the organization domain. And the final 14% are related to the workplace. Finally, the exam itself is not paper-based. It is computer-based, administered through a testing and assessment company called Prometric. Prometric has locations in more than 160 countries around the world and support over 7 million test takers a year. After you've submitted your application, you'll receive via email an authorization to test, or ATT letter. You'll use the eligibility ID from your letter to schedule your exam date with Prometric. Before scheduling your exam, you must decide whether you'd like to take it at a testing center or remotely from either your home or office. There are pros and cons to either method. Some candidates prefer to go to a specific location meant just for test takers. Everyone in the room will be at a computer, like you, taking an exam. You'll need to go through security and are not allowed any personal belongings in the room with you. Taking the exam remotely is really no different, but you won't need to travel to a testing facility or place your personal belongings in a locker. You will need to have a computer with a camera, microphone, and strong, consistent internet connection. Security is also very tight. A proctor will be watching you take the exam and ensuring you are following all the guidelines and rules. Both Prometric and SHRM have more information about what to expect if you decide to take the exam in person versus remotely. I hope you found this helpful. If so, remember to like this video and subscribe to HR Jetpack's YouTube channel to be notified of all our future videos.